It has been quite a while since a big Diablo developer has said something interesting about the state of ARPGs, so when this little tidbit of information came out, I knew we needed to talk about it. Especially since the last tidbit of insight from the creators of the largest action ARPG franchise ever made was so juicy. However, this particular sliver of knowledge doesn't come from the current day stewards of the Diablo franchise. No, it actually comes from someone who made Diablo games that contained Diablo. Yeah, this friendly diss charges in from one of the old guard, one of the original arbiters of the ARPG genre and of Diablo itself. The man, the myth, the legend who doesn't like to zoom super fast like you and I, David Brevik. And by all the gods, I think I agree with him almost wholeheartedly. Are you ready? Are you ready for this sick burn? Here's the first quote. I think that ARPGs in general have started to lean into this. Kill swaths of enemies all over the place extremely quickly. Your build is killing all sorts of stuff so you get more drops. You can level up so you can and the screen is littered with stuff you don't care about. I don't find that as kind of personal and realistic as Diablo 2. The pacing on Diablo 2 I think is great. That's one of the reasons it's endured. I just don't find killing screenfuls of things instantly and mowing stuff down and walking around the level and killing everything very enticing. I just don't feel like that is a cool experience. I find it kind of silly. That right there is a direct call out of Last Epoch, Path of Exile, Diablo 4, and many other ARPGs of the present day. In fact, it's even ripping what Path of Exile 2's cruel mode and endgame quickly devolves into with the current state of balance during PoE 2's early access period. Single clicks exploding entire screens and players reaching this pinnacle level of power way too fast or easily. And you know what? He's partially right here for a large swath of people who seriously would enjoy ARPGs but do not like the best possible state of their characters transcending to dashing from one screen to the next with little thought about what each enemy or pack of enemies is doing. It's why so many people, including myself, were foaming at the mouth about Path of Exile 2. It promised something fresh, something new, and I'm still hopeful that'll be achieved as its early access receives sweeping changes. However, the current age of ARPGs is a monolith. Almost all of them, love them or hate them, rapidly turn into this style of play far too quickly, and that is a problem. There's room for multiple speeds of ARPG to exist, even multiple speeds of play to exist within the same ARPG. But right now, every single ARPG that exists, heck, even Diablo 2, turned into Zoom fests, so this quote is actually a little funny from David. Tell him to stay away from Mr. Llama SC's YouTube channel. In all seriousness, I think he's touching on the campaign play and speed of progression through the endgame of Diablo 2 and other ARPGs, and not necessarily what your character transcends into by the end of the endgame when they turn into gods. That even happened in Diablo 2, and I'm sure David Brevik is very aware of that fact. And my thought right here is solidified when David Brevik and the interviewer talk a little bit more about modern games and historic games and their speed of progression, not just ARPGs. With any RPG, especially MMOs and ARPGs, Brevik explains that the fun actually isn't getting to the end, it's the journey. While titles like Diablo 3 force players to play through 70 levels worth of experience in a few hours, that progression rips away player growth and it tears apart the journey. In comparison, Diablo 2's slower pace, longer grind, and sparser enemy crowds make the game feel like an actual adventure. When you're shortening that journey and making it kind of ridiculous, Brevik told us, you've cheapened the entire experience, in my opinion. Preach, David, preach. This is an exorbitant view, one shared by some, but unfortunately ridiculed by many in the current live service system of games and era of ARPGs. I really think Brevik would like Path of Exile 2's campaign. I wonder if he's played it. Maybe I should ask him. Players move from game to game with extreme speed, wherein the end goal is always the end and never the journey, generally. Then, in many ARPGs, players seek extreme character power as fast as possible and as easily as possible, wherein some people like myself love the journey, love a steady progression with certain spikes of power wherein you eventually become a god, but the journey to godhood is dark and full of terrors. This is why I hate campaign skips. It takes out a whole segment of character and world progression. The goal should be making that slice of progression as enjoyable as possible, not forcing players to play through it a single time so they can get to the good stuff every other time they create a new character in the game. That's just outright terrible. Brevik is just right on the money here with progression. He knows the end goal is what Diablo 2 eventually boiled down to, but the journey to get there was not nearly as fast or as trivial as it is in many games of the present, ARPG, MMO, and the like. And that's a huge reason why Diablo 2 has had such long legs. It's why I'm keen on grinding your games addressing the speed of progression and power of characters in Path of Exile 2 Early Access as soon as possible. Patch point 2 when. They were clear about their intentions with Path of Exile 2. They wanted meaningful combat, difficult monsters, and steady progression, and presently, you become a god way too fast and way too easily in Path of Exile 2's endgame. Now, they have recently admitted there are progression issues in the endgame, but their solution to those issues, well, that remains to be seen. I'm hoping for the game to feel more like the campaign for longer in the endgame, with an eventual powerhouse of a character after an arduous and exciting journey. I think that's what Grinding Your Games is aiming for in their self-proclaimed next generation and evolution of the ARPG genre. No Rest for the Wicked creative director Thomas Mahler chimed in on this ARPG discourse as well, saying, "There we go. Even the father of Diablo agrees with me." And this is exactly why we made No Rest for the Wicked and took an entirely different direction. I'm pretty sure he didn't mean Diablo 2's endgame in that quote, but your general experience, and that is decidedly not what ARPGs have devolved into. As kindly as possible, I respect the direction No Rest for the Wicked ventured, and it is indeed incredibly far from the usual ARPG, but it pushed much too far in the direction of one-on-one combat. It's far more a Souls-like than any other ARPG out there right now, especially since its item system is also very dissimilar from the classic isometric loot-based ARPG experience. Succinctly, No Rest for the Wicked swung way too far in the slowing down of combat side of the pendulum for my taste, but it is refreshing to see another vision of the isometric ARPGs making a stand. All this being said, if we seriously look at the field of current ARPGs and try to find which one evolves the current pace of Diablo 2 as described by David Brevik, the absolute closest is Path of Exile 2. But almost entirely only during the first 3 available acts of the early access campaign. Remember, there are 3 more to go, as 6 in total. The staying power of Diablo 2 has been tremendous, as evidenced by the love for fan projects like Project Diablo 2, the non-Blizzard but actually Blizzard remake Diablo 2 Resurrected, and the continually hungry fanbase yearning for the days a new ARPG comes along that shall rekindle that flame that's been kept alive by those aforementioned projects and the embers that were subsequent Diablo games and Path of Exile. In its earliest days, Path of Exile 2 just might be that game. But it all depends on how Grinding Your Games decides to respond to community feedback during the first 10 weeks of the game's early access. I hope they don't cheapen, in David's words, the entire experience. I love Path of Exile 1, and I was looking for something different in Path of Exile 2's gameplay in the end game, one of the largest parts of ARPGs today. In its current iteration, PoE 2 becomes PoE 1 quite quickly in the progression path. I hope they level out character progression and keep difficulty in the game longer, extend the duration of meaningful combat, and give players new and interesting ways to maximize their characters and allow more types of characters to be viable. This will be helping players achieve godhood with their characters after a profound journey rife with impactful steps forward. And you know what? If Path of Exile 2 and Grinding Your Games would like to stand out from the crowd of already existing ARPGs like Path of Exile 1, Last Epoch, Diablo 4, Torchlight Infinite, and all the upcoming ARPGs that'll swarm the market like Dragonkin, the Moonbeast ARPG, and possibly a Riot ARPG, they'll need to do this. Any one of these current and upcoming games might be the first to break the ARPG monolith of the current age. I'm hopeful it'll be Path of Exile 2. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel for more content just like it. Like the video to spread the word, and check out my other videos all about other ARPGs and Path of Exile 2. Stay sane.